Hello, and welcome to another episode of Architecture for Kids podcast. I'm your host, António Capelão. I'm a trained architect, an architectural educator, and founding director of award-winning Architecture for Kids CIC. In this podcast, I'm going to talk to practitioners and creatives that share the same passion as I do, to inspire and to engage children and young people to shape their built environment and the creative industries. The podcast is brought to you in collaboration with the Built Environment Trust, the Thornton Education Trust, and the Welsh School of Architecture, Cardiff University. My guest today is Grace Simmonds, Head of Learning and Engagement at NLA, inspiring young people about the built environment to become actively involved in city making. Grace runs the Next Gen, Diverse Leaders and Community programs, as well as leading on NLA's public engagement. Passionate about adventure play, she has worked with adventure playground specialists Woodland Tribe since 2015, co-building play structures with children across the UK. Before a degree in architectural and interdisciplinary studies at the Bartlett School of Architecture, she was an entrepreneur and the proud owner of a cafe bar and event space. Grace, thank you for coming to talk to me today, and I'm very much looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you, Antonio. It's an absolute pleasure.
What was your favorite subject at school, and what was the subject that you were good at?
Ooh, a good starting place. So my favorite subject would have been textiles. I liked making, I liked working with my hands, I liked being creative and being able to have an idea and then be able to make something out of that idea. Had a really great teacher and just really enjoyed it. And actually I was also, that's what I was the best at, I think, as well. So that's why I got my best grade in. But I also really enjoyed geography as well. So really, again, the teacher really helped, really being inspired by my teacher, but also, just enjoying the subject matter as well.
Did these subjects that you enjoyed and that you were good at influence where you are today with your career and your work?
I've actually never thought about it before, but yes, it really has, hasn't it? Both of those subjects, the geography in particular, and I'm actually, with my work at NLA, working with a lot of geography students on getting them into the built environment industry. But I've never actually thought about my own background and what I liked and enjoyed at school. But no.
And you mentioned about, having a very supportive teacher when you were studying. There's some kind of a synergy between that experience and what you're doing now.
Yeah, I definitely had to discover my own path into architecture. I did a lot of different things before I actually finally got into architecture. I didn't have that that guide, or I don't know anyone who was in the industry or anything. So I think that's really why I'm so passionate about making the industry known to young people, because I don't think I had that growing up, and I had to spend a long time figuring it out myself. But yeah, I mean, having great teachers makes a world of difference. And actually it was quite my geography teacher anyway was really young, and I think that helped me identify with her and relate to her. So
talk a bit about the work that you do at NLA.
I'm actually rebooting the learning program at NLA. We used to have an amazing learning program run by Lefty. And I'm, after through COVID and things, unfortunately that had to disband, but I'm setting it up again from scratch, and focusing on key stage 3 to 5 students. And we've just set up this partnership, which has been really valuable with the Harris Federation. Working particularly with geography students at the moment, but that's definitely going to expand. I'm already meeting their head of history and things like that. So that's definitely going to grow and expand. But Harris have been amazing to work with. Instead of me putting on just events that I think young people will like, it's more about really finding out the value of what they need, what the school kids need, and then me reacting to that and being like, okay, we have all of this amazing network at NLA that is at my fingertips. We have this amazing new centre called the London Centre with scale models of London. So I'm really just trying to bring in, as much of the public, as many school children as possible to come in and just learn more about London, get them sort of invested in their city, and also just for them to find out about the huge amount of career options available in the industry.
How do you go about to find out what is their interests in terms of the students? What is that process?
Yeah, so I have a few key contacts at Harris and also at other schools, and I really work closely with the teachers and people who work in those sort of educational roles to find out what the needs are of students. So obviously we've got A-level geography students that really need kind of case studies and things like that for their coursework. It's called NEA now. The NEA is the non-exam assessments. And so I work with the teachers, to, particularly, for the geography department, to figure out, okay, I'm going to bring in these people to talk about, the redevelopment of Canada Water and, these massive master plans that are happening all over London. So these young people have this sort of unique experience by actually getting to meet the people, creating and shaping London. And then I'm also trying to get them to come on site and be able to visit these projects and learn firsthand from the architects, the planners, the developers that are creating these sites in London. That's been amazing so far. But what I'm actually really interested in doing at NLA is creating this kind of lifelong learning journey. So I also run our Next Gen programs focusing on the sort of future leaders of London. And then I also run our Diverse Leaders program, which is looking at getting how we can get more diversity at leadership level, but also just diversity across the industry in general, as well as our community program as well, and our public engagement. So I kind of see that as fitting all really together in this sort of lifelong learning journey from school children to those at their sort of senior leadership level. And at NLA, I think we're really uniquely positioned to be able to offer something like that.
Do they participate in the process of making, or they are just kind of observant?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a mix. So we'll have presentations and things from senior professionals. But I'm also obviously very keen on getting young people making and creating and collaborating with the professionals themselves. I run sort of design workshops, get children out into the city, taking photographs and drawing and having tours with professionals. We've started this program of sort of mentoring as well. Really having that collaborative approach.
The mentoring program is to work in practices or to have internships in practice and things like that?
Yeah, it's kind of whatever they need it to be. So I'll bring, young people together with professionals in the industry. I'm actually looking at getting our next gen, who are already mentored by senior professionals, for the next gen to then mentor the school children and younger people that are coming in. So I think, again, that creates this sort of nice circular.
Why do you think it's important to bring children and young people into the shaping of the built environment?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for me, it's vital. And I'm sure everyone listening agrees. But it's actually something that hasn't traditionally happened in the built environment industry. And it's something I'm really passionate about, particularly in consultation. Recently, I ran a workshop called Engaging Young Londoners, where I brought together different e-forums from across London together with built environment professionals to have that discussion of exactly that, about why it's so important for young people's voices to be heard, because essentially they are the future of the city. They're the ones that are going to be impacted by the decisions that are being made, and they should and have to be involved in those processes. And it's really amazing to see that change is finally happening now.
I'm also very interested in talking to you a bit about your work with the woodland tribe. You work with children, but it's quite a hands-on sort of process.
Yeah, so it is very hands-on. And I actually got into it I was very lucky. I had, through a sort of mutual friend, I'd got involved with Woodland Tribe from the sort of very early days of it being set up. I just started my degree at the Bartlett, and I got offered a very last-minute place to join a research trip to Germany, going to Hamburg and Berlin to go and view adventure playgrounds. And this person I knew was Sam, who works at Woodland Tribe. He was like, I think you'll be really into this. And wow, I really was. I completely fell in love with these wild, amazing, child-led built spaces that were in the middle of very urban areas, in the middle of, usually quite poor estates, but this incredible space for children to really be free, be creative, to build, and to, explore their creativity. And so when I came back to London, basically my entire degree became about adventure playgrounds in my sort of architectural design work and my history and theory work, and my dissertation, and everything became all about adventure play. I became, it's fair to say, quite obsessed. And that continues today. So I've been working, since, like I said, 2015 with Woodland Tribe. We travel across the UK. We're it's a not-for-profit social enterprise. We do events and things all across the UK, promoting the spirit of adventure play, because traditionally adventure playgrounds are, these rooted community spaces, highly valuable, and unfortunately that value isn't often seen and appreciated. So what we feel our role is to really promote the value and spirit of the adventure playground.
What is playing looks like at the moment, within sort of the UK landscape?
Well, for me, it's really about a co-production process, like a very collaborative process with children. So with Woodland Tribe, we tend to build a sort of frame structure, and then we hand over hammers, saws, drills, and lots of wooden nails to children for them to then, build whatever is in their imagination. And we just basically facilitate that play. We get involved or not involved as much as they want. We sort of are quite trained in knowing when to step in and when to step back, and to make sure it's a safe and, playful environment for them to be very creative and to, build their sort of dream structure, or build their dream playground. We've been doing that at festivals all across the UK, but also more recently in a lot of art galleries and cultural institutions. And then we've been doing some more permanent builds in schools and community centres as well.
When you were saying about children with hammers and nails and so on, do you want to talk about how the safety works, and are those tools just exactly the same tools as we adults use?
Yeah, absolutely. That is something we get asked all the time, like, how do you get away with this? But actually, we don't give children the credit and respect they often deserve. And when you show them that respect, they treat things respectfully. They treat these things in a respectful way. So, for instance, in most of the events we do, we have an initial sort of 10-minute briefing with the children, and we talk them through the dangers, but we also, and the sort of risks, but we say also all about the risk benefit of this type of play. And we also have to have a word for adults. We like to say that don't hover over your child like a helicopter, don't wrap them in cotton wool. This is their space. They have the agency. They are leading this. And honestly, you'll be surprised. We never really have any sort of accidents or anything. So it's, when they feel like they're in control and that, it's their space, they're really respectful. with the tools. It is real tools that we give them. For smaller children of 2 and stuff, we have like quite smaller hammers, but they're still real hammers that people use. And a lot of the time, the children want to make the structure safer for other children because they have that ownership over the space. And so they're like, okay, this is my space. I need to make this bridge safe for the younger child that wants to cross. I need to put a rope across it. You know, they really take ownership over it. And it's absolute magic to see their confidence build with these tools. And it's really quite amazing.
Do you think we are overprotecting children?
Yes, absolutely. I think we are completely overprotecting children, especially in terms of like outdoor space and things like that. I've seen some interesting sort of maps and visualizations of this recently where, you know, generations ago, the sort of walking distance of what children could access on foot by themselves was, you know, miles long. And now that area has been reduced to, you know, meters. It's really sad. And so at Woodland Tribe, that's obviously something that we're really trying to instill again in adults as well as children, of that sort of access to a little bit of risk, because at the end of the day, that is how people learn. So, yeah, really important.
In these 2 landscapes in which you are working, the NLA and the Woodland Tribe, what are the challenges?
Funding is a big one. For people to, I think, just understand and appreciate the value and the social impact of these types of spaces. Adventure playgrounds in particular, I think, are really undervalued spaces in cities. You know, they started often, I mean, to be honest, I think children used to play out in the streets, which since cars have dominated our streets, that's become not so possible. So I would love to see a return of playful streets, the city becoming, you know, far more playful itself. That would mean, you know, these spaces wouldn't necessarily have to exist anymore, but they do exist, and they exist for a reason. And they not only sort of provide this sort of playful area for where children feel safe, a lot safer than sort of public parks a lot of the time. But they also, a lot of these spaces provide maybe the only hot meal these children will get. They provide sort of bike maintenance and workshops and things like that. So they're this real community hub that would love to see more valued in our cities in general.
Colin Ward's book, where, you know, it talks about after the Second World War, children who just used to play in the ruins, you know, of the buildings, and now that inspired playground design.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's actually called The Child in the City. Big fan of Colin Ward. But yeah, no, I totally agree. So yeah, these spaces basically, well, originally adventure playgrounds were born in the sort of 1940s of Denmark. And Lady Ellen of Hertwood in the 50s actually sort of brought that concept to the UK and to London. Yeah, I mean, it was after the war, basically, when all, you know, there was actually space created from bombings, and children would go and play in the rubble and have a great time, sort of messing around and climbing and just being a bit, and having that sort of space to be a bit more free. And she noticed this and had found out about those concepts from Denmark and established the first adventure playground in London. And there are still now about, I think there used to be about 280 adventure playgrounds in London alone, but now that number has dropped dramatically, a lot to do with development in London, and that obviously space becoming very valuable for home. But yeah, these spaces are incredibly valuable and really should be managed and maintained and have that sort of the funding they deserve the community space that it creates is really...
There is this kind of association as well with learn and play. It would be interesting to talk a little bit about that. In terms of the playground itself, of the design itself, Okay, the kids are, or the children and young people are involved in the making. What about the design process, and how does that process sort of works?
It really depends on the project. We're very, it's a different sort of place-based approach depending on whether the project is temporary or permanent. But we'll work with either the local community or local school to figure out what their needs are and what they want. And if it's a permanent structure, we'll work with the children, but in a slightly different way to our temporary structures where the children have complete and utter free reign. And that's really like the playgrounds that I enjoy making. They have this very, the temporary nature, and they are, they're there for a short amount of time and then they magically disappear. Not so magic. We have to take out every nail of every piece of wood. And we use a lot of, offcuts from the timber industry. So it's really beautiful sort of barky offcuts from sawmills and things like that we use to build these structures. And the learning and play. So I think with Woodland Tribe, we really focus on play and not so much pushing for learning, because through play, naturally, children are building confidence, they're learning new skills, social skills, as well as sort of, the physical skills of making. They're using and reacting to a space in a different way. So, of course, there is learning happening, but it's not something that we push because we want children to just play for play's sake. Because often, I think learning is pushed, and when actually play is incredibly important in itself. At NLA, obviously, I have my role there as head of learning to push learning for slightly older children to really develop their sort of learning and their skills, and to open up the built environment industry, which has obviously previously been quite sort of closed off. I really want to enable more people from a range of backgrounds to access the industry and be involved in sort of shaping cities.
Coming back to your work at NLA, is it the programs, are they aligned with the current curriculum?
So, I work with the teachers and the consultants to put together a program that is valuable for the curriculum. So we've been, in terms of geography, we've been working on a particular module. I think it's called Making Places, Creating Spaces, or something like that. And it is, and we've, I give the sort of that curriculum to speakers and things like that, so that they're aware of the kind of points that the young people need to hit in order to ace their exams and their coursework and things like that. But also I kind of, react a lot of the time and collaborate with others and offer opportunities to schools in terms of sort of walking tours and study tours, but also learning more about London for coming into the London Centre and seeing our models, coming to our events, learning more about the industry just in general. So I think it's a bit of both, really.
In terms of youth engagement. And how much has changed, do you think? And how much does it need to change? And what do you think will be the impact of this work that we're doing?
Yeah, well, I think architecture in general has become so much more of a collaborative process. We've moved away from, the starchitect and really much more into a collective and collaborative process, which is needed. And it's definitely heading, I think, in the right direction. I think there's still a lot of work to do. There's still a lot of, I think, things that happen that is just for a tick box exercise, but it's definitely, there's so many people out there doing incredible work now. And that's actually really starting to, they've been doing it for a long time, but it's now just being recognised and becoming a bit more of a statutory thing that has to happen. And that's a really good thing. Hopefully, the impact, I think, we'll see over the years, but hopefully it will be a much more livable, playful, friendly city. I recently saw a lecture by Jan Gell, which was really inspiring because he is all about creating cities for the eye and the foot, he says, rather than the sort of motor car. And I think that's really important that we start to shape cities for walking and cycling and playing and everything else other than sort of modes of...
By giving voice and supporting young people from a young age, I think hopefully will make them a more confident individuals and create an impact on the built environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And, a lot of people may, not identify or feel alienated in their city growing up if it's constantly changing. But if they're involved in that process, then then they feel some ownership over it. It's just like the playgrounds. They feel ownership over it and therefore they care for it deeply. That's really what...
At NLA, set up your own workshops.
We do run our own sort of workshops as well. At the moment, my focus is on getting like school children involved in those workshops. I know previously we just opened it out in general to sort of any young people, but it was quite hard to get people.
I think, one of the problems we have as well is that if we organize these workshops and these events separately from schools, is really difficult to get people involved.
Yeah, I think we run the London Festival of Architecture, and that's all about, bringing people and getting people excited about architecture and the city and everything that's going on. So I'm hoping that, the more people that come along to that, and I know we're really pushing for sort of more family-friendly events and installations and collaborations. So, hopefully when people sort of clock on to these things that are happening, we'll hopefully see more and more engagement and involvement. It's great having the school involvement, but just broader and widely more in the city.
Was there a question that you'd like me to have asked you that I haven't asked? And if there were, and what was that question?
But maybe just, I guess where I'd like to see play and learning within the built environment, maybe in the future. I think the aim of Woodland Tribe is for play to become a popular culture in the UK and everywhere in the world. So that is something that I really hope for in the future, that we really value these sort of child-led spaces, these collaborative spaces, where, young people have that sort of agency in their city. And that's obviously something I'm really striving for at NLA, as well as my work at Woodland Tribe.
Where can people find you to find out more about the work you're doing at NLA?
We've opened the London Centre. It's in the sort of west wing of the Guildhall. We're open to the public Tuesday to Saturday, 11 till 5. But we also have obviously all of our events that happen in the evenings and in the mornings. And then Mondays, I really have free for schools come in. So if you are a teacher, please bring in your students. The space is free, and we encourage everyone to come and visit us. And if I can plug another podcast, which is actually made by children at Felix Road Adventure Playground in Bristol. It's called Freedom Kids Podcast, and they're only 5-minute episodes, but they are genius. Thank you so much, Antonio, and I would like to interview you next.
Thank you very much to my guest today, to all the listeners, and please subscribe to Architecture for Kids podcast and leave your rating and a review. Recommend us to your friends and family, and to find out more about it, visit our websites, antoniocaplan-portfolio.co.uk, buildingcentre.co.uk, thorntoneducationtrust.org, cardiff.ac.uk, and follow us on Instagram, Arch for Kids CIC, Twitter, @Kaplan, LinkedIn, @Kaplan, CAPELAO. And please join me again next week for another episode of Architecture for Kids podcast, brought to you in collaboration with the Built Environment Trust, the Thornton Education Trust, and the Welsh School of Architecture, Cardiff University.